Gasper, you like this Bregman deal as much as Sean Casey? I was Sean Casey of MLB Network. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I love the deal because it is, as Sean Casey laid out there, it's just a logical fit for both teams. And I think that there are some intangibles that Bregman brings to the table. And this is one of the elements I like about it, that it's not all based on the numbers and sabermetrics. There are intangibles that he brings to the table in terms of going to the playoffs 8 straight times, having an edge, having a big personality, being a leader. Yeah, it's cliche you call a guy a winner, but he's been on winning teams. He knows what it takes, and they don't have a lot of those guys there. I think that that is going to help them, whether he is with the team for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. And I know they want to segue to the big three and the new core with Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer and that entire group there, Christian Campbell. But someone has to show those guys the way, and someone has to sort of set the standard. I think the Red Sox, since 2018, have really lost sight of and lost the idea of what the standard needs to be. Like, I am so tired of hearing about sustainable success. And as I wrote to you guys in the email, despite the syntax of that phrase, where success comes after sustainable, you have to have success first before you can talk about sustaining it. And I feel like the Red Sox have just lost sight of that as they're conducting this whole thing like it's a science project. And bringing Bregman in, to me, says you're serious about trying to win in 2025. And that's why I like the move. I also like it because, yes, it's not a 6 or 7 year deal for somebody. But you know what? The most money anybody was offering him on one of those deals was $28.5 million. And they said, to get the term that we want, we'll blow him away and pay him $40 million because we're the Boston Red Sox and we can afford to do that. And we'll flex a little bit of our financial might. And when's the last time they really did that?
What do you think the impetus was? Why now? And what do you think was behind it?
I think why now, because this is just my opinion. I feel like Alex Cora and Sam Kennedy got their way here because they wanted Bregman. And I think on a certain level, Sam Kennedy, as the spokesperson for this organization, someone who has had to be the human shield now for basically 4 years in a row and try and sell to the fan base that they're serious about contending. He went in November and talked to people and said, look, there's extreme urgency internally to do something in 2025, to have a postseason run, and not only that, but to compete for the American League East. The Crochet deal was nice, but it wasn't shaping up like they were going to be able to do that. And I feel like he put his thumb on the scale, Larry Lucchino style, and was able to help push this over the finish line because he's tired of being the guy that has to take all the slings and arrows of going out there and saying we're going to be competitive, and then it doesn't get done, or it doesn't look like it, or at least there's not enough of an effort made by the people in baseball ops who are testing their theories and their models to actually back up what he's saying.
What do you think, Mazz?
So I actually think that they have been trying to get through to ownership, in other years, maybe not as aggressively as this year. And ownership just said, no, we're not ready. We don't have a way to control the costs yet. We don't have the young players here. We can't just go out and build a team through free agency. So find a way to do it. Chaim Bloom failed miserably. Craig Breslow's first year was hardly anything special. And I think they kept pushing and then finally said, okay, these young guys are coming. Honestly, I'm surprised they're doing it now versus next year. Because I think these kids are all going to have a transition into the big leagues, but they at least, maybe it's because they start factoring into the payroll. So I don't disagree with what Chris is saying, that they've pushed. But I think for whatever reason, ownership decided now, okay, we're going to listen to them, we're going to respond. And I think the fact that they've been, average at best, they're 437 and 433 over the last 6 years. They've been invisible. Their profile has plummeted. They've been non-existent.
They've become a laughing stock, Mazz.
They
become
really
a laughing
have.
stock. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. When you have statements like Full Throttle, or the statement that Sam Kennedy made talking about them being able to win the extreme urgency internally to be competing for the American League East Championship and to set ourselves up for a deep postseason run in 2025. And talking about some of the other stuff that he talked about, wanting to win the division and being set up to win the division in multiple years, you start to look like a punchline when you don't do enough to have that come to fruition. And also the other element of it from a purely baseball standpoint, and this is where I totally agree with you, Mazz. You mentioned Jarren Duran, and he was outstanding last year. That was Jarren Duran's fourth season of exposure to big league baseball before he finally had that type of season. And he was good the year before. He was good. He wasn't an all-star, but he was good. He had a good year. So why are these presumptions and assumptions from the people in baseball operations that, well, now our big three's like ready to go. So these guys are going to step in the lineup right away and light it up like Fred Lynn or Nomar? All three of them. That's what's going to happen?
And it's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
It is.
That's terrible planning. I don't care how smart you are, where you went to school, or how many degrees you have. What are the odds of all three of those guys stepping in and being Fred Lynn or Nomar as rookies? That's just not going to happen. So I think somebody convinced ownership that there's still a little bit of a gap here, that maybe one of these guys can contribute big time this year, but we still have a little bit of a gap and a little bit of a window, and Bregman on a 3-year deal can fill that gap and also show these guys how it's done to be able to transition us to where we want to be, which is like being the Dodgers and being in it every year. So somebody was able to convince ownership of that fact.
We played a Cora cut off the top. And again, I was off the last couple of days, so I'm not sure exactly when he said it. And he made a reference to something that I just sort of, let go one in one ear and out the other. I wasn't sure exactly what he meant. But now I guess I do. So, Jimmy, would you just play the Cora cut we played off the top of the show at 2 o'clock? And it also, again, it relates to Devers playing, second or third, and Devers' reluctance to play second in the past, to DH in the past and come off at third base, etc. Play that cut for me.
We had conversations about where he's at right now. He was here until Friday, and he knows what's going on. We've been talking about everything from what we're trying to accomplish roster-wise to what we need to accomplish for him. And I think right now the main thing, is not positions or additions or whatever, is for him to have a healthy camp. He had a good off season as far as the shoulders. He's in a good spot. He's been here for 3 weeks. He went home, of course, to be with his family, which I don't, I love it. I really love the fact that he disconnected himself from this and went home to enjoy them, and he'll be back. But I think, the conversation with him is more about himself right now.
Okay, so I missed that whole thing. So wait a minute. Devers was in camp. They were keeping him abreast of what was going on. He was aware of what was going on. And now he went home to be with his family, which Cora loves. But he went home to be with his family, and Cora appreciates the fact that he's disconnecting himself from this. What? Did he just leave camp? And why is that not a... So this is a guy that has not wanted to move off at third base, has been, I guess, internally adamant about not moving off at third base. They just signed a Gold Glove third baseman, and he leaves camp. Has anyone written this or reported this or talked about this? Or is this just a me thing again? Like I'm the only one that's reading into all of this. Someone help me here.
Chris, I'll go. Sorry, I didn't know if Chris was going to answer. So here's what I'll tell you. This is where you're not wrong, but here's where it gets gray. Positional players aren't doing camp until the weekend.
What if they were here before? Well,
right, but the guys have done that before. Where they show up and then leave, for a period of time and then come back when camp starts because it's their last chance to be with their family before the camp starts.
Oh, okay.
So it's not. But look, it's not unreasonable to speculate that Rafael Devers might have been unhappy with this. Now, if he speaks and says he's fine with it, great. If Bregman's playing second base, my guess, Mike, is that they talked to Devers about it before they pursued Bregman.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I can't imagine they would have brought him in here if they didn't tell Devers ahead of time, but that doesn't mean he was happy about it.
Chris, what's your thought on the whole Devers angle?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, hopefully, again, he would be willing to move off at third base. Their infield defense has been atrocious for multiple years now, and Cora has talked about that. You go back to last year, I mean, they were minus 15 defensive runs saved in the infield. I think they made something like 67 errors in the infield, and there's overall as a team, this is just team defense overall, 95 unearned runs, which I believe led Major League Baseball. So for them to be do you remember Tom Werner talking last year about, if we had better defense, we would have made the playoffs.
Yeah, better instruction.
Going into this past season where they finished 81-81, which was the other thing I wanted to get to just about this overall, and why it makes sense for them to extend themselves on some level or meet Bregman halfway. However you want to phrase this, it is some level of extension from them financially that, frankly, we didn't think they were willing to do or capable of at this point. And part of that is, again, when you make these comments like Sam Kennedy made about competing for the American League East, do you guys remember they finished 10 games behind the second place team? Not the Yankees who won the division. They were 10 games behind second place, which was the Orioles, who have that young core that they're trying to build, and it's already in place, and it's already working for them at this point. So if you're going to make statements like that, you have to back it up because you have so much ground to close. And if you look at the American League East and what it takes to win the American League East, and I've mentioned this. I mentioned this with you, Felger, on BST with Holly. There's no team that's won the division in a full season. So take the COVID year out. In a full season, there's no team that has won the division with fewer than 90 wins since you have to go back to 2000 and Mazz's beloved Yankees, who had 87 wins.
They were special.
So for you to seriously jump up into contention for this thing, you need to be 10 or 12 wins better. I think the actual number is 93 wins. Like if you go from 2000 on, so take 2000 with the 87, from 2001 on, I think the fewest amount of wins any team that's won the division has had in a full season is 93. Does it feel like they're close to 93 wins before they brought in Bregman?
Not before. But I don't think they're that far off, frankly. But I've lost my gauge of, I don't have the Pacoda algorithm, memorized. So I don't know what translates to wins or whatnot. I think they're going to be good. And I don't know what that means. 88, 93. I think they could contend for the division. I'm just interested in the Devers angle.
I think both you and Murray won't have to fake Red Sox contention this summer. How's that? You did last summer, having to fake it all the way through.
Listen, I just look at the games behind, Chris. I'm a simpleton. I'm a Neanderthal. I look at that stupid thing called the scoreboard, and then in the morning, I pick up the paper and I look at the standings. And if you're 2 games out of the wild card, I call that contention. But again, I'm the problem.
Okay, even you call that contention, even if the team has a track record of doing the exact same thing and then collapsing.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Mike, before you go to the phones, can I give you one more quick thing?
Please.
Okay, we played a cut of the last segment. Sean Casey talking about what Fenway Park will mean for Alex Bregman, whose career OPS in Fenway, I think, is just under 1,300.
It's 1240.
Okay, 1240 at Fenway Park in his career. Okay. I would like to tell everyone to pump the brakes hard on that part of it.
Here we go.
The ballpark will help him, okay? The ballpark will help him. There's no question. He's already been playing in a ballpark with a short left field, for one thing. So let's focus on that. And his career OPS is not 1240, as Chris just told me. And also, he's been in the big leagues for 9 years. 5 of them, 5 of the last 9, the Red Sox haven't been able to get anybody out in their own ballpark. So you tell me who has been on the mound against Alex Bregman in 5 years that could get him out?
No one.
At Fenway Park. Because I would tell you no one. I would have a 1240 OPS at Fenway Park in the last 5 years as a visiting player because they've been sending a bunch of slot machines out there to pitch.
Can I unpump the brakes?
Yes.
I'll unpump them on this with this. I know the numbers last year maybe weren't the greatest for Bregman, but he got off to a horrific start in April and May. From June 1st on, 284, OPS was 837. So, people look at last year and say, oh, geez, I don't know, you want to give this guy this money? He got off to a really, really slow start, but the Astros don't make the playoffs and don't turn it around. That entire team got off to a horrendous start. I will pat myself on the back here by saying that when you, Felger, were pumping Red Sox contention, I guaranteed that Houston would finish with a better Red Sox record than the Red Sox, and they did. And Bregman was a big part of that. So I think if you look at the way he his numbers were actually better last year than maybe they look on sort of the baseball card or baseball reference at this point.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Felger and Mazz here. For more Red Sox analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.